All right, let's dive in. Today we're looking at Genesis chapter 50.
Oh, Genesis 50.
It's the last chapter of the book, right?
Last chapter, yeah.
End of Joseph's story.
The culmination.
Really hits on some big themes, grief and forgiveness,
Right.
family dynamics, that sort of thing.
Yeah, how families work,
All with this sense that there's something bigger going on behind it all.
a bigger plan.
Even when things seem kind of chaotic, I think there's a lot in here that people will relate to.
You don't have to be a Bible scholar to get something out of it.
Exactly.
It's very human.
Yeah.
This chapter doesn't hold back on the raw emotion.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it starts with Jacob's death,
Yeah.
and the Egyptians mourn him, get this, for 70 days.
70 days, 70 days.
70 days. That's a long time.
Even for, like, a really important leader.
It was a huge honor.
Really?
Usually, that kind of mourning was for pharaohs,
I see.
not for foreigners like Jacob.
That's a powerful statement.
It shows the impact Jacob had on Egyptian society. Maybe even the influence of Joseph himself. I don't know.
There's this detail that jumped out at me.
Okay.
Joseph tells the physicians to embalm his father.
Hmm.
Embalming, was that like a normal thing back then?
Not at all. It was a big deal.
Yeah,
Complex process, expensive,
I bet.
reserved for the elite,
Makes sense.
shows Joseph's wealth and status.
Yeah.
But also, think about it.
What?
It gives us a peek into those ancient Egyptian medical practices.
That's so cool.
These little details, they're like time travel, aren't they?
Totally. Oh, and the place where they mourned Jacob.
Uh-huh.
Abel Mizraim.
Right.
It means the mourning of the Egyptians.
The name itself tells the story.
It shows how deeply they were affected.
It wasn't just a family thing,
No, it was a national event.
Yeah. And then we get to the journey.
The journey.
Joseph taking Jacob back to Canaan for burial.
Oh, right.
Big procession.
I was wondering about that, actually. Wouldn't it have been simpler to bury Jacob in Egypt?
Logistically, yeah.
Yeah. Why go through all that trouble?
Ah, but there's a deeper meaning there.
I figured.
Jacob wanted to be buried in the cave of Machpelah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Isn't that the cave Abraham bought?
The very same.
Wow.
Where Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, they're all buried.
The ancestral burial ground.
Exactly. A connection to their forefathers, to the promises God made.
So it wasn't just logistics for Joseph.
No, it was an act of faith,
A pilgrimage.
reaffirming their heritage.
Wow, that's powerful. But then after the burial, the focus shifts to the brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And they seem terrified.
Can you blame them?
I guess not. Years after selling Joseph into slavery.
There they are.
Face to face with him.
The guilt must have been eating them alive.
It doesn't matter how much time passes.
That shadow hangs over them.
Yeah. And they send a messenger to Joseph
Right.
with this message. They say their father made them promise to ask for forgiveness.
Before he died.
Do you think they were being honest?
It's hard to say.
It seems like they're using their dead father as a shield.
Maybe. Or maybe they were truly repentant.
Close!
The text leaves it open to interpretation.
That's what makes it so fascinating.
Forces you to think about their motives.
Human nature is complicated.
It really is. So how does Joseph react?
Yeah, how does he handle this? He's always so composed.
Well, when he hears his brother's plea,
Yeah.
he weeps.
He weeps. Really?
It says he wept.
I never pictured him breaking down.
It shows his humanity.
Wow.
The pain he carried all those years.
So what does he do?
He says something profound.
What?
Am I in the place of God?
That's deep. What do you think he meant?
He's not the ultimate judge,
Obviously.
acknowledging a higher power.
A divine plan? He's not seeking revenge?
It seems not.
But does he forgive them? I mean, what they did was awful.
His next words offer some insight.
Tell me.
He says, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good."
Wow. That's incredible.
He's reframing the whole experience,
He's saying their betrayal was part of a larger plan.
orchestrated by God,
That's a radical way of thinking.
turning evil into good.
It makes you wonder
What
how we might see our own struggles differently.
if we could adopt that perspective?
Absolutely.
Maybe we should take a break here.
Yeah, good idea.
We can pick this up after the break.
Sounds good.
There's so much more to unpack.
Definitely. We'll be right back. I keep thinking about that line. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good.
It's really something, isn't it?
It's like the ultimate forgiveness.
He goes beyond just saying, "I forgive you."
It does.
He's taking the whole thing, the whole experience, and flipping it.
He's saying, Even when they were at their worst, jealous, greedy,
Right.
they were part of something bigger.
Unknowingly. Part of a plan. God's plan.
So he acknowledges the pain they caused,
He doesn't deny that.
but he sees it through this completely different lens.
No. He's saying there's a purpose beyond what we can understand.
It's like, even when things seem so bleak,
Yeah.
when you feel betrayed, lost.
There's this possibility
Of what?
of good coming out of it,
Yeah.
of growth, finding meaning in the chaos.
It's powerful stuff.
It really resonates with people, I think, no matter what they believe,
Yeah.
because life throws curveballs.
It does.
We all face setbacks. We make mistakes.
We hurt.
Exactly. But Joseph's story,
Yeah.
it gives us a way to deal with those challenges,
To be resilient.
to find hope when things are tough.
I'm stuck on this whole greater good idea.
What do you mean?
If everything happens for a reason,
Yeah,
does that mean we just accept injustice, suffering, without question?
that's a really good point, and a tough one to grapple with.
It is.
I don't think it means we ignore the pain
No.
or condone those who cause harm.
Okay.
It's more about finding a way to move forward with hope, with purpose.
Even after something terrible happens.
Yeah. I think that's a more compassionate way to look at it.
Right.
It's not about saying what happened was okay.
No.
It's about the resilience of the human spirit.
I like that. You know, there's another part I found interesting.
Okay.
Joseph asks for his bones to be taken back to Canaan
Oh, yes.
when the Israelites return to the Promised Land.
A hint of his faith.
Such strong faith. He wasn't even born when God made that promise to Abraham.
Right. But he held on to it.
His whole life.
Through everything.
It wasn't just about where he was buried.
No. It was about trust.
Believing God would keep his promise, even if it took generations.
A powerful message for us today, don't you think?
It is. To keep hoping, even when things are uncertain.
To trust there's a plan, a bigger plan.
Even when we can't see it. It also makes me think about legacy.
The legacy.
Yeah. The impact our choices have on the future.
Ah, I see.
Joseph's story, it's not just about him.
It isn't.
It's about his family, future generations, the course of history even.
It reminds us that we all leave a legacy.
We all make choices that matter, that contribute to something bigger.
Exactly. Okay, so forgiveness, faith, legacy, finding meaning in the tough times.
Right.
All big ideas.
But how do we apply this stuff to our own lives?
Ah, the million-dollar question.
It is.
Well, maybe it starts with perspective.
Okay.
Like Joseph, we could get stuck on the injustice, the bitterness,
Yeah.
but he chose to see it differently,
He saw a higher purpose.
even in the midst of suffering.
So even when things are really bad,
Yeah.
we can look for the good, the potential for growth.
And that doesn't mean ignoring the pain,
No.
but choosing to believe that even the worst experiences
Can be redeemed.
can lead to something good, something that transforms us.
You know, there's this quote I love.
What's that?
Life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it.
Perfect.
We can't always control what happens.
No, but we control how we respond.
And that's where the power is.
Absolutely.
So what else can we learn from Joseph?
Well, his faith is a powerful example.
It is betrayal, slavery, prison.
He went through so much,
He never gave up on God's promises.
even when he couldn't see how they'd come true.
He believed there was a bigger plan.
A plan beyond his circumstances,
That kind of faith, it can really sustain you.
especially when you're struggling.
Yeah. It's not about being naive or ignoring reality. It's about believing there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
That even in the darkness, there's hope.
I love that. But how do we get there?
To that kind of faith.
Yeah, when doubts creep in, when things are uncertain.
That's a great question, and one we should definitely keep exploring.
Okay, so forgiveness, right? Perspective, holding on to faith when things get rough.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that? Cultivate faith, when you start to doubt.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that sounds good in theory.
It's not just a switch you flip. Faith, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Learning to trust in something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, even when you don't have all the answers. So where do you even start? If you're feeling lost, full of doubt, what do you do?
Well, you got to realize, doubt, it's normal.
Really?
It is. Even people with strong faith, they have moments of doubt. Doesn't mean you're a bad person
Okay.
or that your faith is weak. It just means you're You're thinking about it. You're asking questions, trying to understand.
So you're saying don't try to ignore the doubt.
Embrace them. It's all part of the process.
Okay. But what about when when reason just doesn't seem enough?
Yeah.
When you're going through something truly awful, like you're just overwhelmed with grief or fear.
In those times, you need to tap into something.
Yeah.
Something deeper. Beyond your rational mind. Things like meditation.
Okay.
Prayer. Spending time in nature. Being with people who support you.
Oh, yeah, being with others. That reminds me of Joseph. He was so betrayed by his family, but in the end, he found reconciliation.
Right.
He built this strong community around him.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
We're not meant to go through hard times alone.
You're like a safety net.
It is. People who can catch you when you fall.
Yeah.
Help you back up.
Sometimes just knowing you're not alone makes all the difference.
It does. Talking to people who understand.
Yeah.
Who've been there. It can give you hope.
This whole deep dive into Genesis 50, we've covered so much. Forgiveness, resilience, community, trusting that there's a bigger plan.
Themes that go beyond just religion, I think.
Yeah.
They speak to everyone, the challenges we all face.
There's one last thing I wanted to touch on, the embalming.
Oh, of Jacob and Joseph.
Yeah. We talked about the Egyptian practices, but it felt like there was more to it. Symbolism, maybe?
You're right. It wasn't just about preserving the body.
What was it about, then?
It pointed to something beyond death.
What do you mean?
The hope of resurrection. The belief that death isn't the end.
Like with Joseph asking for his bones to be taken back to Canaan.
Exactly.
He was saying, my story doesn't end here.
There's a future.
A homecoming.
God's promise will be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Even if it takes longer than my lifetime.
It's a powerful message. You know, even in the face of death, there's hope.
There's something more. Love, connection, it doesn't just disappear.
It makes you want to live your life on purpose, knowing your choices have an impact, that they ripple out beyond your own life.
We're all part of something bigger.
A tapestry, you mean?
Yeah, woven together by all these acts of love and courage and kindness, and we each get to add our own thread.
So as we wrap up, Genesis chapter 50, it's not just an old story.
Not at all.
It's about faith and resilience and the power of forgiveness, things that are still relevant today.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that even when we're faced with incredibly tough situations, we can overcome. We can find meaning in our pain. We can leave a mark on the world, a legacy of hope.
And maybe, most importantly, we're not alone in this. We have each other. We have the wisdom of those who came before us. And we have a source of strength, something that guides us, something bigger than all of us.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. I hope you found something here that resonated with you, something to hold on to.
And to think about.
We'll see you next time.